we take a broad look at the series, it can be separated in 3 phases. Starting in 1991 with Shining and the Darkness, and with currently 38 releases. Some games of the series are remakes, so you can shrink that number to 27 original games. But you can also include some other games that were supposed to be part of the Shining series at some point. The series is Japanese. Japanese to English is noteworthy for being a source of error or interpretations. The 90s were the times of the Shining Force simulation RPGs, the first action RPG, the only 2 dungeon crawlers of the series, but mostly a chaotic bunch of different companies working under Sega's direction to develop the Shining series. It starts in 1991 with Shining in the Darkness, developed by Climax Entertainment, which also developed the first Shining Force. After that, Hiroyuki Takahashi, producer of the series, and the only person to be credited on every Phase 1 game, created another company, Sonic Software Planning, that developed the other games until they created yet another company, which you probably know, Camelot Software Planning. They developed Shining Wisdom and Shining the Holy Ark before the 3 Shining Force 3 scenarios, and then departed the series. Since, they made Sports Game and the Golden Sun series. Climax Entertainment then went on to finish a game that was originally planned as Shining, entitled it Landstalker. The other father of the series, Yoshitika Tamaki, is the character designer of many games, most notably Shy Dark and Shining Force, after which he followed Climax Entertainment and participated in the Stalker series. He made a manga entitled Doomblade that links the event of the first 2 Shining games. The main character of the manga was reused to make another series called Fada, for which he made a company named Max Entertainment.
As it had to happen, the year 2001 began for all Sega fans with a shocking message, as Sega announced on the 31st of January the discontinuation of the Dreamcast after the 31st of March and the restructuring of the company as a platform-independent third-party developer.
They rebooted the series in 2001. It started with 3 games on the GBA, the 2 Shining Soul and a remake of Shining Force. For those 3 games, Tamaki came back as a character designer. The remake featured a more faithful translation than the original. Shining Force has always been compared to the Fire Emblem series. While in Japan, Fire Emblem was considered better and Shining Force too easy, no Fire Emblem game would be released in the West in the 90s, and Shining Force was there introduced as the first tactical in the West. But by the time Resurrection of the Dark Dragon came out, Fire Emblem 7 was already released on the Game Boy Advance and considered a masterpiece. In the 1st October 2004, Sega ceased to exist as a holding company. Sammy, which did Pachinko and other machines, and Sega would merge to create SEGA Sammy Holdings. But the chairman of the holding was Hajime Satoshi, previous president of Sammy. The impact of this merging on the Shining IP is debatable and speculative, but surely it's there. After the game sold poorly, making Shining Force SRPG the same way wouldn't work, so Sega decided to just not make them. After that, on PlayStation 2, there were 2 groups of games. Shining Force Neo and EXA were made by Neverland, who previously made 1 game for the Record of Lodoss War series. The other 2 games were Chase and Win, which still had Tamaki for making designs, but also saw the introduction of another important artist for the series, tonytaka, an artist that was already known for making eroge and adult novels. It shifted the artistic direction of future games since he was now doing the main character designs. A few games were then featured on Japanese phonophones via an online distribution service called SEGA Ages. 3 are remakes of the Shining Force Gaiden games, Shining Win X and ShiningForceEXA Mobile, are the same setting of their PlayStation 2 counterparts. The 2 Shining World use ShiningSoul designs but are simulation RPG. Shining Force Feather was another tactical, but only released in Japan. Shining Force Cross was made only for Japanese arcade, and is another action RPG. From this point on, Tonytaka is the main designer of the series. On PSP, 2 were action RPG, the other was a tactical. On PlayStation 3, Shining Resonance was an action RPG, while Blade Accused from Shining was a fighting game.
さあ、始めようぜ。
はい、よろしくお願いします。
ラウンド1、ファイト。
すごい技ですね。
All of those games were released only in Japan. Shining Resonance saw a remake and international release as Refrain in 2018, while Blade Accused from Shining saw 3 different releases, each implementing character from another Takaverse game. Tonytaka's inclusion to the series and Tsuyoshi Sawada, producer, put the focus on diverse products of female characters. The genre of those games varied, but the gameplay can be described as generic, copying other games on the market. The last original release of the series, Shining Resonance, is regarded as the worst Tales-of game, with dating simulator gameplay being a part of the scenario, and having a lot of DLCs for the Chinese and Japanese markets that consisted of nothing but alternate costumes for the female characters. A mobile Shining Force Heroes of Light and Darkness was developed by a small Korean studio, but they ceased activity, and there hasn't been a new original game released since 2014. Thanks for listening this far. I don't always ask for it, but since working on this rabbit hole starts to resemble a job, if you could support this video and maybe the upcoming ones, I would greatly appreciate it.